Hey y'all. All right, so I put my timer for 6 minutes because I don't really feel like I have a lot to say about today's trade. I took three trades. The first one was profitable, but it was a very small trade. I did jump back in a little bit early on the second trade and um, didn't hold long enough, and then I gave back my profit from what I had made. And then I waited and then jumped into another trade. And I was really proud of myself on that one because I held much longer and it was a much cleaner trade. Now, that being said, I could have held a little bit longer. Um, let's kind of just jump into it real quick. Hmm. Let's see. And I did put in my journal like why I jumped in the trade. So let me see if I can see that while I'm sitting in the dark. Oh, come on. Come along now. Um, I know for sure I got into puts somewhere around here. And it's so crazy, like looking at this now. Um, it just felt like it took forever. But long story short, I do remember getting into some puts um, for the last trade, and I got out fairly early. And let me just look at my notes real quick. We had data at 7 a.m. We had PM, PMI and JOLTS, and I got in at 6:33 because there was a fair value gap. So we had broken to the downside. There was a fair value gap right here, and so price came up just a little bit and then came down. I think I just panicked sold. Um, and I remember feeling kind of like, whew, I'm glad I got out because price, when it came here, it opened here, I believe, came down and then started to reverse. So I jumped out. And then I got back into, I want to say it was into another put and I got out early. And part of it was because there was like a order block right here. And there was also some like blue liquidity. You know what? Let's try to do a replay real quick. Should do a replay right here. I wonder, are you gonna let me be great? Let's just do this. I'm not sure how this works. Hmm. Okay. So right now it's playing, but let's make the speed like let's make it like an update per second. Yeah, let's try that. Mm, okay. Mm-mm. Mm. It's not showing the order blocks that were there, but I did remember getting into a second put. Mm. For my third one, yeah, yo, you know what? I might not even really record this. I don't know. It's having brain fog. I would say for today, go and look at the live. Um, and I'm just gonna call it a day. I think the constructive criticism that I have for myself is that the internal breakout that I like to trade, Bruno hears me recording and then he just decides to just go crazy. This came up later in the day. All right. Apparently, this is not going to be, and I refuse to re-record over. Um, the this internal block, this internal that I like to play, came up later in the day, and I had already gotten out of a trade, but I could have held longer for a one-to-one. And so that's just something that I needed to be more conscious of. It is part of my strategy, and I have said it before. Like today is Wednesday, and I would have liked to see that, on Monday and Tuesday, much earlier in the day. November and December of last year, like it would come up 6:33, 6:35, 6:36, somewhere around that. And for me, when it comes up later, um, I've just been a little bit shy. Yesterday was another example of that where I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel too comfortable with it coming up like 7:15, um, and then it not really playing out. But it just is what it is. Just it's the same way my body's reacting to going back to work full time after 2 weeks, even though, for the most part, I try to keep my schedule as much as I could. It's the same thing with everybody coming back into the market. You have to give yourself some grace and yeah, and get back into the game. Because even I want to say like the last week of December, I didn't really trade too terribly much. I decided to risk it for the Friday, January the 2nd. Um, and where it was a much more lackadaisical, like relaxed approach. And so it's just a matter of like trying to remind myself that that's really what I'm looking for, and the internal breakout is what I'm looking for, and the fair value gaps and stuff like that. So, eh, just is what it is. It was one of those cleaner days. I will say, something that took me back a little bit. I was watching it while I was at work, but it's been busy at work, so um, I am noticing that it looks like there are opportunities for plays. I feel like maybe next week when, my work kind of settles down a little bit more, I don't know, the temptation is there, but from what I experienced like towards the end of the year, I just felt like trades after 8:30, they just started to like, you know, not really pan out the way that I would have liked. Like for example, this would have came up close to 8:30, and I mean, it could have stayed in as long as you stayed above the 8 EMA. And then same thing here, you would have had like maybe entry somewhere around here when this crosses over, and had a nice move to the downside. Um, same thing here too. So, but you know what? I'm just tired. It's just one of those days that a girl goes through. I'm not angry inside. Don't want to make a person know. Alright, so I'm just gonna hop off. It just is what it is. These days happen. It was possible. I'm a little bit worried. Like a part of me is like, oh my gosh, what if I, you know, go in tomorrow? And so we'll see. I'm just gonna try to get some rest and keep my head in the game in terms of like every day is a fresh day. I don't want to go in with a big head in terms of just feeling invincible about my trades. I want to continue to practice patience. I want to continue to reaffirm that I am waiting to react. I want to reaffirm that I'm waiting for my internal breakouts to play out, and um, and getting a good idea of like how price is reacting to certain key levels. Another beautiful play that played out today that was beautiful. I mean, was price was coming down here. We are waiting to see how price was going to react to this pivot level, and I had already at that point already exited. I think my third trade, and for some reason this morning felt so long. I mean, oh, but this is 8:30 here. No, no, this is 8:30. Yeah, it just felt so long. But long story short, so price came down to the pivot level, and then right under here we had a fair value gap to the downside. But you know what? I don't. That's not how I remember it. Like, am I on the right day? Yeah, I'm on the right day. There was a fair value gap, but I remember the fair value gap happening under here, and there was a very nice clean move. Um, that's wild. Because what I'm looking at here, there wouldn't there wouldn't have been enough room for a fair value gap, and there wouldn't have been enough room for downside. So, I don't know, guys. I'm just gonna hop off in less than the 6 minutes. Did I even put the timer on? I didn't even start the timer on. And it's 12 minutes. That's kind of like waiting for the alarm to go off. I'll talk to you guys later. It just is what it is. Just, real life scenario of I put as much as I could on my journal. So the first trade I put exactly, I got into puts from 43 dollars. At 6:33, I got in because there's a fair value gap, and I put that I entered because we were below the 1 hour red premium zone. Um, Made a small entry on that one, and then on my second trade, I put bad tech entry. Watched. Oh, I should have waited for the break of the blue zone and the order block. And then for the third one, I just put puts, but I didn't put a reason why. But I held much longer. So I can get better at journaling intraday. Um, just as what it is. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.